Good morning, all. And this happy Sunday. Ooh. So last week I was talking about something on CCNP enterprise and other things. Today I'll be talking on Ethernet switching. It's a legacy, like L2 and L3 switchings as well. So everyone can hear me? Is clear? My voice is clear? Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Your voice is clear.
Okay, thank you. So I'll be talking about something on a normal L2 and L3 switchings today. So this we've been doing for quite a long time, and for near about 20-25 years we've been doing this layer 2 switching and the layer 3 switchings. And Cisco has acquired this switching company in early 90s, I guess. Then they started producing the Ethernet switches also. Previously they were doing only the routers and routing environments and routing protocols. They were doing that. Now then they started doing something on the switching environment also. So in the switches, normally we say L2 switches and L3 switches. And L4 to L7, we will be doing certain kind of an application, load balancers and another we just do. They are also doing certain switching also. So L2 means layer 2, it's a data link layer. L3 means it's a network layer. In OSI layer, I'm just talking about. So the in Cisco, everything is called as a catalyst. Catalyst switches we'll call it as. There are a lot of models on that catalyst models. In that one, we normally start with the 1900 model, 2600 model, 3500, 4000 series, 7000 series. And nowadays there is a Nexus which is going on, Nexus series and all. So these are all the switches which is being produced by Cisco. And accordingly to our own requirement, we will be using the switches in our own environment. Environment in the sense like we would like to have like how many ports and all required. Accordingly, we will be like purchasing the switches and we'll integrate it in our network. So whenever you try to create a on-premises network or a data center network, but in the cloud, there is no much switching as such, but we will be working on data centers as well as in the on-premises about the Ethernet switching we are talking about. So when we are creating a network on the on-premises or the data centers, we require to consider about the L2 switching as well as the L3 switching also. Then only the people will be get connected to that. Even though when we are using the wireless connections, wireless in the sense we will be connecting to the APs which are on top of our head, which has been hanging on the roof. It will give a connectivity to us like so to the backend servers on this. So those connections also been done by the Ethernet switching only. Means you will be connecting to the AP via the wireless, but the wireless, all the APs are interconnected with the Cat5 cable only. So we connect the cable towards it and it will be ending up in the rack room and finally it will get connected to the switch ports on this. So ultimately switching L2 and L3 cannot be avoided at all anywhere. We require to do the switching. Then only it is possible for us to have the higher, very sorry. So the higher speed on the Ethernet network we can have on this, So when you got a chance to see the rack room, or if you visit any data centers, you can just see that the number of switches which are installed in the racks, and the cables will be like flowing everywhere. Like that, then we need to do the proper structured cabling and all, so that the people will be connected properly. And even now also when we try to connect to the audio conference or video conference or something, or a telepresence is there in Cisco product is there, and all the mostly like Zoom conferences and everything which we do normally. Nowadays the team is also quite famous, but whenever we try to conferencing to some people, like around 30-40 people, when I'm trying to give a presentation or a webinar or a seminar, if I'm going to give that, those things I will be, we are going to connect with the Ethernet network. That's why we will be getting the enough speed for that, because I can play my own videos and I can show my stills on that. I can show my slides and other things. It's very much possible. So we require the much speed to get connected to the local area network. I can just say local area network. So switching cannot be completely avoided. But now in the cloud environment, we are not talking about much switching as such. We are all doing everything on L3 activity. And inside that, how do they do that? But the switching concepts are still being considered and it has been offered for the people. And whenever it is, we are talking about the switching on this layer 2 switching, which is been done by only by considering the MAC addresses which are attached to the NICs and the router interfaces and the switch interfaces as well. When we talk about the L3 switching, in the sense we are combining the MAC addresses as well as the IP addresses on the, like to do the switching, the intelligent switching which we can do on this. Then afterwards, L4 to L7, we just need to forward it through the application-based forwardings need to be done on that. But we are here today. We are discussing about the L2 and L3 switches, which we are going to talk about that. Ethernet switching is an old concept, and we have a lot of cablings which has been involved in the switching part. These are all we are discussing about the campus area network, local area network, metro network. These are all the networks still need to be connected through the switches only. Even though when we are having the 4G connections, nowadays the 5G connections are going to come up. So these all 4G connections are in the backend. We are connecting to the Ethernet switches on that. So all the wireless things need to go back to the wired only in the backend. So switching is a very important chapter. We just need to understand that switching concepts as well, and how the switching is being done. What is the TCAM table, and how the MAC address table need to be seen, that how to read them, and which particular PC has been connected to which port, and how to configure the VLANs on that, and how you are going to do the VLAN routing on this. What is a VLAN? Like VLAN, when we are creating the VLAN, then we will be creating a different broadcast domains which we are creating. That is called as the VLANs. Broadcast domains, in the sense, the subnets we will call it as in L3. In L2 domains, we will be calling it as like more of VLANs only. We will be calling it as. So VLANs are virtual local area network which can be created for segregating the departments as well inside the company, so that we can route the packets properly without having any much broadcast which is flowing through the entire network or something, which will reduce our efficiency of the switching performance. So many factors are involved in when we are trying to connect with the Ethernet switches or something, as the network engineers are solely responsible for this Ethernet switching part on this. And nowadays we are getting some kind of virtual images also as an L2 switches and L3 switches on the Cisco. We can integrate it to the any simulators like a JNS3 or EVE-NG. We can do a lot of practices over there in the switching. Like earlier parts, we couldn't do this switching on the simulation part of it. We just need to buy the switches, else we need to connect to the rack rentals on the internet, and so we will be doing all the practice on this. Nowadays it's quite easier because we are having the L2 switches and L3 switches are available for the laboratory purpose. We can integrate it in the simulators and we can do a lot of practice on this. Without knowing the switching properly, we will not be able to shine in any network environment. And nowadays we are talking about the SD-WAN also. SD-WAN also, like software defined WANs, we will be using the switching in the backend. So without switching, nothing is possible as such. Even when you talk about the router to router talking, it's actually doing the switching over there. So within the router, the routing is happening. Outside of the router, the switching is happening. So switching is a basic concept which everyone has to understand. And there are a lot of other switches also available on the market, not only the Cisco. Juniper switches are there, D-Link switches are there, and Dell switches are there. HP switches, 3Com switches, so many other switches as well, also available. And according to our own requirements, what is the speed and what will be the throughput which we're looking for, and what are the performance it's going to give us like that. How do we integrate that voice and video traffic towards the normal Ethernet network? What sort of cables need to get used for that? And how do we make the campus area network by using the fiber cables? How do I terminate the fiber cable to the normal Ethernet switch? What are the connectors I should be using for that? Like these are all the things need to be considered when we are trying to make the designing of an entire network for your company or on-premises or a client companies or a data center networks. Data centers and all, it just need to be properly cabled and it should be properly ferruled. In the sense, there is a labels need to be given properly and the rack information has to be given proper records. Then only you will be going and finding out where is your resources are staying and lying there. So many, like constructing of the network, in the sense, I should say it's an L2 and L3 switches only will be constructing the networks. Routers are used to do the remote site connectivities and the VPN connections and internet connections and other things. But on-premises network, if 1,000 users to connect to the net server, in the sense, we require to have the switches need to get configured for that. So you can just see some lot of pictures are on the screen. You can just see that. And before that, we would like to know the switching concepts and what sort of design which we can make with the switching, Ethernet switching, and what parameters we just need to see before going for a designings, and what are the prerequisites for that, and what sort of cables we are going to use for that, like many other things which we are going to discuss on this one. So please be joined with me. I will just start this, the presentation now. Maybe this is old, it's not actually old. Still people are looking for the Cisco certified people. Like even if you try to make yourself into the cloud side or something like that, you require the basic routing and switching knowledge, wireless knowledge, and the security knowledge is being still required. These domains will be as an evergreen, actually. It never get over or never getting like outdated or something like that, because we require to know these all chapters. All knowledges are required so that you can able to build your own skills towards the SD-WAN environment or the cloud environment, like security environment. Everything is required. The basic things need to be get clear for you. So better you study this. Even if you're not going for an exam or something, it's okay. But you just need to have all the informations regarding the, what is the switching is going to happen, what are the things we have to configure on that, how to access the switch through the console, and how we going to configure that VLANs and integrating the, different networks as well, how to configure the access ports and trunk ports, and what are the trunking protocols are involved in that. Like how to see the MAC address table on this. And how do you find out that who is actually attacking our L2 network? L2 network means it's a layer 2 network. And how do you do the snooping on this, DHCP snooping? DAI is also been the dynamic ARP inspection, something which we can do that. So many things which are even involved in the security, on-premises security environment also depend on the complete switching environment which we have. So without knowing the switching, we will not be able to do anything on the, the network side. So let us start with the slides. And let me go to the enterprise network. Enterprise network is nothing but like we are going to talk on the campus network. It's a campus network in the sense like core network, it's a backbone. Data center networks, branch office network, WAN network, and internet edge. These are all things which we normally discuss about that. When we talk about enterprise network in the sense, what are the common components will be there. Minimum components whichever we require. There should be a core, backbone has to be there. And we need to build our own campus network as well. Data centers will be talking about whether we are going to build a data center or we will be connecting to the data centers using our own on-premises network. Branch office network need to get created. WAN network need to be constructed. Internet edge, how do we get configured with that? These are all the points which we need to discuss about the enterprise network environment. So we will see something on more detailing on the switching in the coming slides. Campus designs. Modular design, resilient design, and flexible design. There are three types of designs which you can go for. Easily supports the growth and change. Scaling the network is eased by adding new modules in lieu of complete redesigns. That is a modular design. Resilience, proper high availability characteristics result in near 100% of time. Resilient is nothing but like high availability. High availability means like we will be going for active connections, active passive connections. It's like more of a failover connections which we are talking about. That is called as a resilient connections, which will make our network is be always up because of the secondary part will be coming up. Even though the primary is getting failed, then we will go and troubleshoot the primary why it has been failed. Until that time, the secondary switches will be keep on working on. So there won't be any loss in the productions. There won't be any disruption in the production network or something. So that's been called as like resilient network. Then it is flexible. Change in the business is a guarantee for any enterprise. These changes drive campus network equipments requirements to adapt quickly. Whenever you try to do the campus designs, we just need to keep these three things in mind: modular designing, resilient designing, and flexible designing. Flexible in the sense, you should be in a position that whenever you try to replace an equipment, which doesn't cause any major outage on the network, your campus network or something. So you will be designing in that way that even though the core switches are getting replaced or something, it should not define, it should not design, like disrupt uh, the campus network of something. So these modular designs, resilient designs, and flexible designs which we talk about. And the next one, like we'll see multi-layer switches in campus network. So hardware-based routing using the application-specific integrated circuits. This is nothing but the ASICs which are used in the Cisco environment, which are built by the Cisco itself only. Means like when we try to buy the Cisco switches, the ASICs are made by Cisco, and we will not be able to see what is the code which has been written inside because it is a proprietary environment. So hardware-based routing using the application-specific integrated circuits. RIP, OSPF, and EAGRP are supported. That is, we are talking about the multi-layer switching. Multi-layer switching in the sense layer 2, layer 3, and above. That is called as a multi-layer switching. So in this one, we are having that RIP, OSPF, EAGRP also can be supported. Layer 3 switching speeds approximate that of L2 switches. Layer 4 to 7 switching supported on the some of the switches. Future, pure L3 environment leveraging inexpensive to the L3 access layer switches like. So that has been already been there. We have the L3 switches on the access layer environment also. So when we talk about the multi-layer switching in the sense, the switches are not, restricted to the layers of 2 or something, because by default, when we talk about the Ethernet switch, it will be sitting on layer 2 only. We will be doing based on the MAC address forwardings. So not only that, we can have the L3 switch also, which can work based on the L2 MAC addresses as well as the L3 IP addresses as well. And it can go beyond the 4 to 7 also. 4 to 7 in the sense it's like an application based, some other switches it's being used. So this is nothing but the multi-layer switching environment. Cisco switches family. What all the switches are there in Cisco, and which one we will be using for our own network? What could be the design models and all? And what is their capability, which goes for like, what could be the speed which is being given for that? Like that, so we can see on this one, Catalyst 6500 family. Use it in campus, data center, and the core OS, core as well as WAN and branch. So this is the higher end switches. Up to 13 slots and 16 of 10 gigabit Ethernet interfaces. Redundant power supplies are there. Fans and supervisor engines. Runs on Cisco IOS. Then the Catalyst 4500 family. Used in distribution layer. It's like you can take it as like a core layer. Then there is a distribution layer. And then there will be an access layer. Like that it goes. This is a normal design which has been prescribed by the prescribed by the Cisco, and somebody is raising the hand. Let me see. So anything? Hello.
Hi.
Somebody speaking. Somebody is having any questions on this?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah, yes. Why not? Please go ahead.
One question, like I've never heard about beyond layer 2 and layer 3 switching. I've already heard about like L2 switching and L3 switching.
Okay.
L4 and L5, L6 switching above L4.
Yeah. Hello.
What kind of switching we have in L4 switching, like L5 switching?
That is like an application based, that we need to write the code for that to make the switching available. All the load balancers will be working on L4 to L7. So that is a higher end switching, like we will be able to use it with our Nexus environments. And we can do the higher end switching on this one. Based on the application, the switches will happen. Port based forwardings, we can make that. So those are all called as like a layer 4 to layer 7 models. Application based in the sense mostly like it comes with your port numbers only. So every other application has got a different port assigned for that, default ports as well as the dynamic ports. So based on the ports, we will be forwarding on this, not only just based on IP address and the MAC addresses legacy model. We will use it using the port based models also. That is layer 4 to layer 7 switches. Okay. So Catalyst 4500 family, which we were discussing about that. Let me take the annotation. This one is a Catalyst 4500 family. This is used in the distribution layer. Like say I said that it's a core layer, then it is a distribution layer, then it's an access layer. Access layer, the people will be sitting, means like end user will be sitting on this access layer, which will be connected to the distribution layer. Distribution layer will be connected to the core layer. Like this it goes. So here, up to 10 slots and several 10 gigabit Ethernet interfaces are there in this, and runs on Cisco iOS only. Nowadays, all the switches are running on iOS only. There's no doubt about that. And Catalyst 3560 and 3750 families used in fixed port scenarios and access at the access and distribution layers. Means this you will not be able to put any modules inside. There won't be any line cards. It's there that you can put some extra modules on that. It's not there. It's like a fixed ports. How many, like 24, 48, something like that. 48, more than 48, it's not available. Either you have to go for like a stack models, stack switching, like a master and slave will go for this. So those kind of a models, we just need to have it on access and distribution layers. So this is Nexus 2000, 3000, and Nexus 2000, 5000, 7000 families. Those are all used in NX OS based modular data center switches. We require this in the data centers when we go for VXLAN and other activities. And SD-WAN also we can integrate this. So this is the latest model which has been available on the Cisco models. These are all, you must be able to see it in your data centers or in your on-premises or a customer network, you'll be seeing this. But this you will be seeing mainly on the data centers which is connecting to the other parts of the world or something. And it can integrate your voice and other communications as well. Nexus. Nexus is based on the NX OS actually. This is not a iOS, that is called as an Nexus OS. The Nexus OS is partly developed by the Cisco as well as it's a Linux platform. Cisco OS plus Linux platform. So that open source integration has been done on this. So that's why it is called as an NX OS. It's not an iOS. So these are all the types of, the family of the Cisco switches we call it as. And all the legacy switches are called as a Catalyst, but the Nexus is called as Nexus only. Nexus has got its own operating system called Nexus, NX OS. Catalyst 3560 and 3750, Catalyst 4500, Catalyst 6500. This is for accessing intake. Mostly you can take it as an access. This is the distribution layer, and this is the core layer. Like that, the connectivity will be made. So this is the model which has been suggested by the Cisco. Even we are doing the same kind of modeling as well. Even if you try to put any other switches as well, like you just need to go through the documentations properly. Even if you are using a different type of models entering, different company models, if you are using that, you just need to go through that. What is the capability of that particular model where it can be fit in an environment? So if you are putting that an access switch on the distribution layer, in the sense it may be overwhelmed, and it will be like over the packet drops will be start happening on this. It's happening on that. So when we are going to design something, we just need to take care of all these things. It's already been given properly, like all the documentations. When you go through that, you'll get the idea like what model will be fitting in. Accordingly, the processor and the memory will be there so that they can work until that level only. So we just need to choose the models appropriately. Next, multi-layer switching miscellany. ASIC-based switching is supported even with QoS and ACLs, depending on the platform. QoS is nothing but quality of service. ACLs are access control lists, which we can write. Depend on the platform. 6500 switches support hardware-based switching with much larger ACLs than 3560. Because 3560 is, I can take it as like an access model only. So we are comparing that access model with the core model. It doesn't work out anyway, but they are just saying that it's more than we can write more ACLs on 6500 switches. ASICs on Catalyst switches work in tandem with the ternary content addressable memory, that is called as a TCAM, and a packet matching algorithms for a high-speed switching. Catalyst 6000 switches with the supervisor engine 720 and a multi-layer switch feature card MSFC3 must software catch switch all packets requiring network address translations and all. So it can work as an L3 switch. That's what it's been, a L3 switch which can do some QoS activity, ACL activity, NAT activities, packet-based forwardings, and everything it can do. Unlike CPUs, ASICs scale in switching architecture. ASICs integrate onto individual line modules of Catalyst switches to hardware switch packets in a distributed manner. So this is about multi-layer switching concepts on this. This is some more advancement details has been given on this here. So what are the traffic types which we can see on the network? In the layer 3 network, I can just say. So traffic types will be, one is the network management traffic type. There we will be seeing the BPDUs, means Bridge Protocol Data Unit, Cisco Discovery Protocol, simple network management protocol, remote monitoring, secure shell traffic. For example, these are all low bandwidth network management traffics will be coming. Next is an IP telephony, signaling traffic and encapsulated voice traffic, low bandwidth. It doesn't require much bandwidth at all. Like one voice call can go with the 64 kbps normally. Without having any interruptions, we can have this. So one voice call. And IP multicast, IP and TV market data applications, intensive configuration requirements, very high bandwidth. So this is like a classification of the traffic which we are discussing now. One is a low bandwidth network management traffic. Next one is an IP telephony. That is the people who are talking over the phone over an IP. That is a low bandwidth traffic. The third one is like IP multicast, which we will be seeing the video and audio streaming, which is concurrent, and it is keep on going on like a live traffic, which we will be seeing that requires a very high bandwidth. Normal data. Normal data in the sense of file and print services, email, internet browsing, database access, shared network applications, low to medium bandwidth. These are all normal data. Normal data in the sense like you are sending a mail, you try to transfer certain small files between the systems, and you're accessing the internet. Like, and you're going to your SharePoint access resources, and you're chatting with someone through the Skype call or like, something like that. Just doing those are all normal data has been called as. So this is a low to medium bandwidth. Here we just say low bandwidth, and this is also a low bandwidth. This is a very high bandwidth. This is a medium bandwidth. And scavenger class, this is very important. All traffic with the protocols or patterns that exceed normal data flows. Less than best effort traffic, such as peer-to-peer traffic, instant messaging, file sharing, IP phone calls, and video conferencing. Medium to high bandwidth. So all traffic with the protocols or patterns that exceed the normal data flows. Means in the sense I can just say from medium to high, we can just take it as that is called as a scavenger class. So there are there are 5 classes of the traffic which we can see. That is the network management traffic, IP telephony traffic, IP multicast traffic, normal data traffic, and a scavenger class traffic. So when we are designing the Ethernet switch environment, we just need to keep in mind that what should be the bandwidth requirement for each station, and which department is using the very heavy bandwidth requirements, which network, which VLANs we just need to get configured all these people, and where to place them in the cubicle like that, so that it's easy for us to make the things to run on. Somebody is raising the hand. Yes. Okay means okay. Anyway, somebody is saying okay. Okay. So these 5 points, we just need to remember that means the traffic types when we try to discussing something on the traffic and all, when we try designing some of the network for our on-premises or data centers, we just need to keep all these things in our mind. Next is the client server applications. The diagram itself is showing you a lot of things on this. So here the server form is there, means all the servers are located over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 servers are there. This is maybe like an access switch, you can call it as. This is your distribution layer network. Sorry, this might be a core switches, and this is the distribution layer, and this is an access layer. Here it is coming up. Somebody is raising the hand. Hi for Harshika. What happened? Can you listen to me? I'm audible to you. Anyway, people are not complaining, so I'm audible. Anyway, I'll just continue. So client server applications, which we are discussing now. So the server form is being handled by the core switches, and they are connected to the core switches on this, because there will be a lot of heavy switching will be happening on this. High speed switching is required for that. And we are having it on the distribution switches. It is getting connected. It is starting from the access, then the distribution, then the core. It's like that. It goes in this way. Mail servers, file servers, database servers. Access to application is fast, reliable, and secure. Somebody speaking again. What is the size of the video call? That depends on the streaming which we are using, and that is depending on the applications which we are using that. But that will be heavy requirement we require. Video call cannot be counted as such. Like when you try to see the bandwidth of the video call is required, in the sense minimum you require around 4 MB, 5 MB. More than that also it required for a call to be per second basis. We just need to calculate that. So for a voice call, I can just make it out like a 64 kbps if I'm giving that, because it is talking through the phone. When the IP phone has been picked up and the people are talking on that, So I can assign the 64 kbps with the QoS markings, which I can do that. That call will be keep on going on. But video cannot be determined with the bandwidth applications as well. Like I cannot restrict any bandwidth only for the video or something. Video will be taking the precedence. Video will be taking the priority. So finding out that how much bandwidth it is going to take, that will be a very harder to find out the information on this. So I guess I answered you. Okay, access to the applications is fast, reliable, and secure. Okay, thanks. Okay, thank you. So client server applications, what is the client server applications? Clients will be accessing their mail servers, their file servers, and their database servers. So mostly these three servers will be in our network. So when they are accessing to that, they'll come to the access switch first. Then they'll get back to the distribution switches. From the distribution switches, they will be reaching to the core layer. From the core layer, they will be accessing their entire server on this. So this is how the normal client server applications are running on this. So we can run it with that. This we can have it like around 2500 series is possible. It's okay. So if your traffic is not so heavy, here we can have a 3500. Here you can have 4500, or you can have a 6000 series switches on this. That's very easier. And next we will be seeing a client enterprise edge. This is different from the client edge, normal that is. This is client enterprise edge. Servers on the enterprise edge exchanging data between the organization, and it's a public service. Public service means either maybe they are in the internet, or they may be in an external mail service which may be sitting in different data centers. Maybe it's in a different building itself, or it may be in a different, like connecting through the WAN or something like that. It's possible. Security and high availability are paramount. That is more important. So here again, it comes like access layers, which is only we are seeing. Distribution is there. Then here it is like a core switches we are using. So when it goes like a enterprise edge applications, we just need to have more powered, like the switches need to get designed for that. Then building access, distribution, and the core layers. This was, we were just discussing about that. So here the access layer is here. This is an access layer. With this access layer, we are connecting all the end users to this. All the PCs are connecting to the access layer. Access layer will be connecting the building wise distribution switches. This is the building 2. Here it is connecting. From there, it will go to the core. Core will be doing, it will not take any intelligent decision at all. It will just forwarding the packet as fast as possible, ASAP. Then the data center connections are happening on the backend. So that's what building the core layer, high speed campus backbone designed to switch the packet as fast as possible, provides a high availability and adapts it quickly to the changes. Building the distribution layer, aggregate the wiring closets and use the switches to segment the work groups and isolate the network problems. Building access layer, grant user access to the network devices layer. Here we will be doing kind of a VLAN routing and other things we'll do. Here we'll be doing only the switching on this. Here maybe the VLAN membership will be created on this access layers on this, because people are directly connecting to this environment. So this is how we'll be able to design a network layer when it comes. The next one is like a core layer. It's been, every other layer has been discussed here. The core layer is aggregates the distribution layer switches. Means these are the distribution layers, and they are aggregating the complete bandwidth backend on this. That is a core layer on this. Implements the scalable protocols and technologies and load balancing. They can do all. Okay, then high speed layer 3 switching uses a 10 gig Ethernet. Uses redundant L3 links also. We have 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 like that we can have. So L3 capability will be there in the distribution itself, so that we can have the redundancy as well. We can configure some kind of, first hop redundancy protocols like the HSRP, VRRP, GLBP. These are all the normal protocols. HSRP means it's a hard standby routing protocol, or virtual router redundancy protocol. Else we'll be doing the gateway load balancing protocols. These are all gives us like proper, active passive environment, which we can make it out. And active failover environment also, it is very easy for us to do that. So those things are aggregating to the, and they will be doing the scalable protocols and technologies and load balancing. High speed layer 3 switching uses a 10 gig Ethernet. So they'll be working on 10 gig only, so that the backend speed will be very heavier. So the people who are accessing the service on the backend server form, they will not feel any kind of, latency in that. So this is nothing but our core layers. Next one is the distribution layer. Distribution layer is giving the high availability for path recovery, fast path recovery, load balancing, QoS, and security. Route summarization and the packet manipulations. Mostly in the distribution layers, we will be putting the routers on this to perform the remote connectivity and other things. So we can do the route summarization in that place. Redistribution between the routing domains means like when you try to do from one protocol to another protocol, means OSPF is sending the packet to the edge or something, we can do the redistributions on this. That can be done in the distribution layer. Packet filtering and policy routing to implement the policy-based connectivity. Terminating the VLANs. VLAN terminations are done here and VLAN routings are done here. First hop redundancy protocol. So here we will be creating the first hop means like FHRP. That's what I was telling, like HSRP we can configure, and we can configure the VRRP on this here, or we can go with the GLBP connections. So these are all possible on the first hop redundancy protocol. They can be configured on the distribution layer to the core layers on this. So we can do a route summarization, we can do the redistributions, we can do the packet filtering, we can terminate the VLANs, and we can have the high availability, means like failovers, and load balancing and QoS also can be configured on this. This is available on the distribution layer switches. Next one is an access layer. Access layer is nothing but the end user connections, where the user is connecting directly to the first point of the first contact point of the network is called as an access layer. Here also we can have high availability supported by many hardware and software features such as redundant power supplies and FHRP we can configure. Convergence provides the inline power over Ethernet. Power over Ethernet is used only maximum used only for our voice connections will be using that, because the voice over IP phones requires the power to get driven their signals to pass through the network. And security includes the port security, DSCP snooping, dynamic ARP inspection, and IP source guard. These are all we will be configured in access layer. Access layer where the end user, the PCs will be connected to this like this. So those people will be connecting to the first point of the network connection, they will be having it. Here we can have the convergence where we can have the PoE, and we can have the security as well, because DSCP snooping can be done. Dynamic ARP inspection we can do. IP source guard we can configure. And these switches can provide the redundant power supplies. We call this normally RPS. And like HSRP and other things also we can configure. So like these are all the three layers which we see now. First one is like, it's a core layer. The core layer is for a high fast switching, which will be providing the 10 gig connection on the backend. Distribution layer will be giving you the high availability, path recovery, and QoS and other security as well. VLAN terminations, routing and summarizations, path determinations, and router filtering and policies. These all can be done. On the access layer, we'll be doing the high availability. Mostly we don't give high availability here, but still it can be configured. Convergence, somebody is pinging. Yes, somebody's raised a hand. Yeah.
Yes, hello, sir. Actually, my name is Abhijit. I am from Orient Technology.
Okay.
Sir, actually, I just want to a little bit brief about DHCP snooping, how it exactly works in access switches. Means I know, but a little bit can you explain, because some doubts are there. So, means how exactly DHCP snooping is working.
DHCP snooping is actually used for kind of filtering things and all. We will be configuring, that is coming under the security features in the layer 2 environment itself. Okay, means like we will be trusting some other port. Trusting in the sense we will be getting the customers, means the end users will be getting the IP addresses from a trusted port.
Okay.
Trusted port, that we will configure the trust port. The trust port will be configured by the network admins. In the trusted port, the DHCP server will be connected. And the trusted port, through the trusted ports, only the customers, the clients need to get and come and get the DHCP addresses through that. If they are getting through the non-trusted port, in the sense it will be getting rejected on this. They will not be able to get the address at all. This is for a security feature we can activate on the L2 environment. That is called as a DHCP snooping. I can explain more on this, but it is like briefly I given you like trust and non-trust port. Through the trusted port, if you get that information, because we try to stop the hacking on layer 2 level itself, because people can build their switching environment and they can build their own servers which can offer the DHCP addresses, and they can take the customer to their own network instead of, like without knowing their, like knowledge or something like that, they will be getting into the hackers network and they will get hacking their entire systems on this. So to avoid this, we will configure the DHCP snooping on the switches. So DHCP snooping is giving us the feature that we can activate the, trust port as well. So when you're doing the trust port, on the trust port only the people are getting the addresses on it. So they will not be misguided towards towards the hacker network. That is called as a DHCP.
Okay, thank you, sir. Means any interface I have configured as a DHCP snooping, then then that will be my trusted port, right?
Yeah, actually we need to configure the DHCP snooping on the global level of the switches. Then we will trust the port, which port is going to be connecting to the server layer. We will configure that. So through that port only the people need to get that one. Like that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, okay, no problems. And a dynamic ARP inspection, we can do that. Means like ARP spoofing is very much easier to do that through the Kali Linux and other things. Something like attackers can use different ARP packets and all, they can send it. And they can emulate that they are actually pinging from they're accessing from the server through the legitimate MAC address and IP address or something. That is possible. We can block those things by writing the configurations on the dynamic ARP inspection. That is called as a DAI. Those are all we can do it in the access layer. That's very much possible. So these are all the three layers which we can discuss about the constructing the switching environment in on-premises, in data centers, even in the cloud also. We are doing that. Okay, then the next one, small campus network. Small campus network can have less than 200 end devices. End devices is nothing but the PCs, laptops, like tablets which are connecting to the network or something, or mobile phones which are connected to the network. There is less than 200 end nodes in the sense it is a small campus area network. It's a collapsed core model. And Catalyst 3560 and 2960 switches for the access layer, we can use it. Cisco 1900 and 2900 routers to interconnect the branch office and WAN connection. So this is the model they are suggesting. How do you go for a small campus network which we can create on this? So here the server form is there. Backend modular. There the VLANs are configured, they will be connected to the VLANs. This is a campus backbone, L3. And this one is like a building access. This is a block and modular. Devices are connected to this one. It goes. So this is how the small campus network has been designed. So we can just think about that whether if it is less than 200 end devices, we can call it as like a small campus area network. What are the switches we can use for those network designing part of it? It's been discussed here like this. The next is medium campus network. 200 to 1000 end devices, redundant multi-layer switches and distribution layer. 200 to 1000 end devices means like end devices. End user can connect until 1000 people. Catalyst 4500 or 6500 switches can be used on this. This is the data center, which is the connection shown. This is a campus backbone. In the campus backbone, we have the aggregate many building distribution models, and this district building and distribution and campus backbones. This is a building 1 and this is a building 2. Like this is how it is being created on this. So we are going to have minimum 1000 people who are sitting in the backbone in the sense, as end users in the sense, it's called as a medium campus network. And next, large campus network, 2000 and more. Like those are end users. Stricter adherence to the core distribution and access delineation. Catalyst 6500 switches in core and in distribution layers also, because end users are heavier. Next is 7000 switches in the data centers. We have to use that. Division of labor amongst the network engineers means like we just need to work heavily to design this large campus network. So when you see below 200, it's a small campus. Above 200 until 1000, it's called as a medium. Above 1000, whatever it may be, whatever it is, maybe going to be like large campus area networks. Now we are having a building networks. We have to discuss, we have to construct that. So every other building is having nowadays, we are having at least 10 floors on that. So every floor, if you calculate that, minimum 1000 users must be sitting on. Even if it is not 1000 users, at least 500 users will be keeping sitting on that. So 1000 users in the sense of 10 floors. So now 10,000 users are there in that. So accordingly, we just need to go for the designing with that. So then the switches also need to be properly chosen for to have the latency to avoid that. So why we are using in the large campus network the 6500 switches in the sense, we require to have the high capacity, high performance, should be there in every other layer. That's what we are using in the core as well as in distribution layer. Nexus 7000 will be definitely will be used in the data centers. Then only you will be getting the much speed which you are expecting on this. Okay, this is a large campus network. Data center infrastructure, how does it being made? How to design a data center infrastructure? Core layer, high speed packet switching backplane. This is high speed. It's a data center core. This is a high speed. Then we'll see the aggregation layer. Aggregation, data center aggregations are happening on this displays. Service module integration, default gateway redundancy, security, load balancing, content switching, firewall, SSL offload, intrusion detection, network analysis. This layer is having heavy work need to be done on this. So we just need to have the Nexus switches only we should be using on this. On access layer connects the servers to the network. Here it is goes to the end users, end server farm or something like that. It will be connecting on this. So people will be connecting on this through the data center. People will be coming from different locations on this one. So core layer is for here also core layer is doing the same work like high speed packet switching technique, and aggregation layer is doing a lot of work. Service module integration, default gateway redundancy. Gateway redundancy in the sense when it's trying to connect to the different network, when it is connecting to the WAN connections on something. So one router fails in the sense we require to have the next router to be picking up the packets and designing it. That is a gateway redundancy we call. Security, definitely it should be beefed up. And load balancing has to be done because we are having the multiple core network switches are there. And content switching, we need to do that. Content switching is nothing but the CDN, which now we call as content device network, where we will be picking up the heavy file downloads or the people who are watching the videos and audios online, streaming which is going on. Those are all coming under the content switching on. These are people who are accessing the heavy loaded web servers and all. That will be put in the content switching on this. Firewalling, SSL offload, and all these things we need to do on this. This is how the data center infrastructure can be maintained. Design guidelines. Prepare, establish the organizational requirements, plan, identify initial network requirements, design, comprehensive based on planning outcomes, implement, build network according to design, operate, maintain network health, optimize, proactive management of the network. So when we go for designing the L2 or L3 switching environment, so we need to consider all these guidelines: preparing, planning, designing, implementing, then operation, then optimizing. Optimizing cannot be done so immediately. You just need to prepare it out. Preparing in the sense we need to work for requirements from the client or from our on-premises people. Then planning it. Planning involves network requirements, like what devices we'll be using that, where we will be connecting them, which type of the cable we like to use it, who are going to be there very much heavily on certain floor, very much lesser on certain floor. Like which building is going to have like what are the servers going to be installed on which servers, like which are all the buildings are going to have like that. Designing comprehensive based on the planning outcomes. Whatever the plans which we done, the designing need to be done on this. Which switch has to be placed in which floor, something like that. And what are the cables we are going to use that, and what are connectors we would like to have it. So these are all coming under the designing part of it. Then implementing it. So whatever the prepared, plan and designed, that need to get implemented on that so that the networks will start functioning. Operating is a very big problem. We just need to maintain the entire network health. Means like which port is getting oversubscribed, where all the lot of drops are happening, where all the babbles are coming, where all the runs and giants are coming up, where the drops are happening so heavily on the network due to the cables or the port, like oversubscribed port or the particular. Somebody speaking? Please mute your mic, please. Please mute your mic, thank you. So implementing. So operating is a very huge concern for people. That's why the people are hired for operations, and it means like troubleshooting and like sorting out the problems and solving the issues as well. So there we will be having the very challenging part. This operation people can give feedback to these designers so that they can modify the designs accordingly, so that the things can be feel better once you made some different designs as well on this. Then optimizing the network according to the proactive management of the network. Proactive management, it's not possible. We can just say that proactive management, but everything can come through like when it is being operating and what circumstances the traffic is getting increased, what could be the pattern of that, like the people who are accessing the network and what timings they're accessing it. Accordingly, we just need to have some benchmark values. Then later we will be start, changing our designs, our entire designing, or we'll modify the designing as well. Like that we can do. And we will see the life cycle approach. This is something in theory, but we require to know this all. Lowering the total cost of network ownership when we're designing it. Budget is also makes sense. So go to the budget only, we will be having all the network designs are happening nowadays. Increasing the network availability, improve business agility, speeding access to the applications and devices, identifying, validating the technology requirement, planning for infrastructure changes and the resource requirements, sound network design aligned with the technical requirements and business goals, accelerating successful implementations, improving efficiency of your network and of the staff supporting it, reducing the operating expenses by improving the efficiency of operational processes and tools. These are all coming under like when we go for managing the network, optimizing the network and maintaining the network, we will come across many issues as well. At the time of designing, we may not be knowing all these things. At the time when it is getting operated, when it is getting utilized the full-fledged capacity of the network, we will come to know the problems which are facing on the network. Accordingly, we have to modify all this. Now then we'll see certain more. Life cycle approach is continuing. Benefits, lowering the total cost of network ownership, increasing the network availability. I guess it is the same thing which we were talking about earlier. And it's been continuing here, improve the high availability and gain the business agility. Design like assessing the network security state and capability to support the proposed design. Specifying the correct set of hardware and software releases, keeping them operational and current. Producing sound operation design and validating the network operations, staging and testing the proposed system before deployment, improving the staff skills, proactively monitoring the system and assessing the availability trends towards alerts. Like people need to get trained properly. They should be knowing that how to troubleshoot that one. What all the commands are required for that, which mode they can run the commands, where to go and what to see, what all the important points need to be seen when the output's been displayed on the screen. These are all like giving the knowledge about the network as well. And hardware and software releases. Whenever there is a new patches come up for the SquareOS, in the sense, we just need to apply it. Or any other switches which are quite vulnerable to the attacks or something. As and then whenever required. As and when required, we just need to have the patches need to get installed on this. That's what been discussed in the availability. Gain the business agility, establishing the business requirements of the technology strategies, readying the sites to support the system, integrating technical requirements and business goals. Network is functional and as specified. Expertly installing, configuring, integrating system components, continually enhancing the performance. These are all more of the designing part of it. Accelerating the access to the network applications and services. Assessing, improving operational preparedness to support current and planned network technologies and services. Improving the service delivery efficiency and effectiveness. Improving availability, reliability, and stability of the network and the applications running of it. Managing and resolving problems affecting your system and keeping software applications current. These are all life cycle approach. Means any network, whatever the device which we are going to use it, we need to properly maintain them, and we need to understand that what are the new releases come up for that hardware enhancements or software enhancements come up, or whether we put that equipment in a proper place or something, whether it is not getting overutilized or something, overwhelming things, packets are coming up, or whether that particular switch is having a capable of sitting in that location, catering the needs for the people who are accessing towards it. So these all can come through the designing perspective as well as from the feedbacks which we are getting from the customers on this one. So accordingly, the life cycle can be modified. Any device whichever it has been produced, so like that has got a life cycle of 7 years. After 7 years, the support will be removed on this. We will not be getting the like active support on the OS platform or something like that. So we just need to go for the next level of switches which are currently available on the market. We just need to evaluate, and we have to put those switches in our environment. So these are all the life cycle approach which we can think of. So this is about the switching things and planning the network implementations. Implementation components, description of the step, reference to the design documents, detailed implementation guidelines, detailed rollback guidelines in case of failure, estimated time needed for the implementations, summary of implementation plan, overview of implementation plan, detailed implementation plan. That is nothing but describing the exact steps necessary to complete the implementation phase, including steps to verify and check the work of the network engineers implementing the plan, like that. So when you're going for an implementation, you just need to have a chart down all these things all one by one. What are the things need to be installed first and which should be get ready. First of all, the cabling need to be ready. All needs to be pinned up properly, and they should be connected with the connectors and all like that. Then we'll go and install the switches. Like then first install switches are already installed, and cabling is not ready in the sense it's a bad design. So step by step, like it has to go for so that we can identify the problems very easily and we can sort it out. So that is what in case of failure, we just need to roll back with the guidelines. Rollback guidelines are also required. When things goes wrong, it's not working in the way which you are thinking. We design, then we'll have to have a rollback plan also. Then we'll have a contingency plan for that. What can be immediately replaced on this? Because once it has been commissioned, we will not be able to go to do any kind of design changes. It's a very tedious process as well as we require to take some lot of downtime for to make the things to happen. So these are all coming under the network implementation part. And so this is like what Cisco tries to see, like that. What are the applications, business applications are there? What are the infrastructure services are there? And what kind of a layer which we can sit on that and we can go with that, or the infrastructure layers like that. We can see it from here. Campus layer, and you can say, what is this? Networked infrastructure layer. That is a campus network, branch office network, data center networks, enterprise edge networks, WAN and MAN, and teleworker networks, something like that. These are all coming under the infrastructure layers. And on the interactive service layers, security services, mobility services, these are all coming under the application delivery, storage services, application oriented networking, voice and collaboration services, that is nothing but voice and video and other streaming audio video. Then computing services, identity services, these are all network infrastructure visualization which comes in, infrastructure management on this. Then the application layer, we are talking about the business applications, and what is that? Collaboration layer, something is that. Okay, instant messaging, unified messaging, Cisco unified meeting place, video delivery, Cisco IP phone, Cisco unified contact centers. So they try to make it out the traffic which is based on certain services as well. Business applications, infrastructure applications, and infrastructure layer wise, like what is a network, like campus network or branch office network or something towards it. So this is about the brief introduction about our L2 and L3 environment. That's what we've seen, like what are the model numbers of the switches which we can use. Catalyst 6000, Catalyst 3500, 4000 series, 7000 series. Nexus series, we can use that. Or the lower end switches like the 2900 series switches we can see. And we'll have to make arrangements on the core layer, distribution layer, and access layers like that. And we'll have to keep some kind of a designing perspectives in us. So which layer equipment has to be put on which layers, how do they talk in between them, where we will be doing the, like the routing, in which layer the routing should be performed, in which layer the high speed switching has to be done, in which layer the end user will have a connectivity on this. So once we have all these details in our mind, so designing, implementation, as well as operational maintenance and troubleshooting will be easier for us. So that is about today. So I come up to the last slide on this. So this is my contact details. I used to offer so many courses on Cisco and Juniper, and as well as on Fortinet, Palo Alto, Checkpoint, every other firewalls I used to work on. Cloud also I'm working on. Any certifications if you like to have it. On any kind of a training, if you're looking for that, you can contact me on these numbers which is on your screen. And you can WhatsApp me and you can email it to me also like this. If any questions in your mind, you can ask me or you can chat with me also, no problem. I'm open to that. You can throw your questions. So what sort of certifications which you can go for? What is the current certification available on the Cisco? What all the changes are done for that? What could be the fees for that? How many days we'll be learning all these things and all? So I'm ready to answer your questions. You can ask me any question. I'm open to that. Yep. Anyone? Anybody? No questions from anyone?
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Can you share this PPT to my email ID?
Of course, I can do that. For that, I require all the people's email addresses. You can put it on the chat box. The Zoom chat box, you can put it on that. I will be sending.
Okay, no issue.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. No problem. I'll give you this recording also because there's nowadays been getting recorded. So this entire recording also I'll be giving. After this, I would like to show you a small demonstration on the spanning tree. I would like to plan maybe 10-15 minutes it may taking or to see the spanning tree environment because we are talking about.
No, thank you.
So yeah, you can put your mail address. Other people also can give the mail address, no issues. I'll be sending you this. I'll not disturbing you. Don't worry. You know, like it's not like a normal. What do you say? It's like centers like that. Education centers will be keep on mailing you or they'll be calling you like that. I'll not do that. I don't do that. But I'll just try give you these presentations to you as well as that for recordings. I'll just forward it to you. Everyone can give it. I see a number of people are there in the chat box. Let's see. Yes. Aglo, the somebody is there. Yeah. Harshita has given and Amit Kumar has given and Sachin Joshi has given. Everyone can give it. I will keep a record of all these things and I will forward it to you. No problems. No messages are coming up. Ravinder. Yeah, that's nice. Nagesh Kumar. Sorry, Mahesh Kumar. Okay. So if you have any questions in your mind, you can ask me. Somebody has asked me about the DSCP something like that. If you have any kind of a small technical details, if you're looking from me, you can ask me that I'm ready to answer your questions. No problems. So Bijit Kadam.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
You have any interview questions for CCNA or CCNP for interview question?
Yes, I have. I can give it to you. No problems. Please give me your email address for that. I have set up questions.
I already given to my email ID, Mahesh Kumar.
Oh, okay. No problem. I'll forward that. Don't worry.
Okay, no issue.
Currently, what are you doing?
Still, I am jobless. Still, I am searching a job for networking.
Okay. Have you done any certifications, CCNA like that? Have you done that?
Yeah, I have done CCNA.
Okay. When you completed?
Yeah, so that's why I'm asking about interview question or any other. But I'm preferably location in Pune.
Okay.
I'm born and bottom from Mumbai. Sorry, your voice is not audible.
Yeah, now it's cracking. Your voice is also cracking. Hello.
Yeah, now it's coming.
Yeah, now it's coming. Yes.
Now it's coming.
Yeah. When you come.
So I tried to relocate in Pune.
Okay. When you completed your. When
your voice is again is not audible.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi, sir.
Yes.
Sorry for.
Yes.
Actually, I'm from Abhijit. I did CCA in routing and switching, and also now it is converted as in enterprise network. Okay. And also I did NP security, CCNP security in. But sir, I'm working since 5 years, but I'm not getting proper means in 4 years. First 4 years I was working in support only. Now I am working in technology, and here I am. I have a proper platform, but can you guide me for my career? Means actually since starting only, I'm not getting proper guidance. Means where I have did CCI and everything. I'm getting knowledge, but guidance means how to set a career. Can you suggest, sir?
Yeah. See whatever you do, like in India, we are all look for only the support jobs because support is the market which is given to India. We are all getting the support jobs only. I have also worked as a support guy, L1, L2, L3 level. Now I'm on a L3, L4 level, like a designing. I'm just doing that. So you just need to start in that level only. After 5th or 6th years only, you will be able to change your domain, or you may be coming to the L3 level. but the expectations will be very heavier. You need to do some many other domains as well, not only on routing switching. You should be working on voice and security as well. And data center networking is very much required. If you do some MPLS,
yes, sir.
QoS and other
security
things.
And FortiGate and Cisco firewall I'm working.
Okay.
And checkpoint I also 2-3 times I have worked on. So now means what means how to get build up in career, like I'm going in proper way or how it is, because I'm very
good. You can stay in the same field to bring it. But nowadays we are talking about the SD-WAN.
Okay.
Knowing about that software defined WAN is
okay.
So Silver PE and
yes.
WANs are coming up. So you should be trying to get a chance to work on that SD-WAN. So that is a future for all the networking people.
Sir, SD-WAN 110 switches I have worked on.
Okay.
Citrix, you are talking about Citrix or SD-WAN, which device you are talking?
Not the Citrix. Silver Peak SD-WAN is the Fortinet SD-WAN. So many other companies are offering the SD-WAN, but SD-WANs are possible only when you are working in a corporate and network environment. Then only you will be getting the chances to work on SD-WAN.
Yeah.
No. Otherwise, usually if you try to learn that, you need to open up an account and you need to pay a certain amount to learn. That will be very clear because we require to have that environment as well. And such as SD-WAN, you just need to work on, and other concepts you just need to learn. So future, if you talk about all the network engineers in the sense, SD-WAN is the only way, thing. And as well as cloud is also coming up. You just need to put your hands on the cloud side also, like either AWS or Azure or Google Cloud. Some other cloud, you just need to have experience on this, how to, create the services and how to activate the servers and network and firewalls and load balancers and on the, cloud side. So these are all very much required. You may be thinking that I'm learning a lot of things, and no, not that way, because the market trend and environment looks for people to be having multiple skills, not only having a routing switching. So you are an SME, you're just saying that as SME. People doesn't look for that nowadays, because the SMEs, in the sense, they require multiple domain SMEs of one person should be doing all these things like that. So requirement never stops. So it is keep on learning process. So try to learn some cloud technologies as well, along with the SD-WAN. That will be giving you the proper future for you.
Okay. Sir, cloud means actually that Meraki. Have you heard? So Meraki, I have.
Yeah, Cisco Meraki is written, installed in the cloud only, because we just need to buy that equipment and we need to connect it, Cisco SD-WAN or something. Then only it will be working on this. If you got a chance to work on it,
yes.
It is also part of that is not a only complete SD-WAN, I can say. It's a security solution given in an SD-WAN. That is also part of one of the equipment in the Meraki. Meraki network is Meraki, actually they took it from some other company, they acquired it to the Cisco and they're doing it.
Cisco, yes, right, sir. Yeah.
But SD-WAN is so bigger version.
Yes, sir. Sir, actually nice to meet you, sir. Okay, if any query in future, so I will save your number and I will directly ping you on WhatsApp. Thank you, sir.
Why not? Definitely, why not? I'm very much ready to serve you people. That's why I'm just making this all, the seminars and like PPTs and slides and other things I'm making. And every Sunday I just try to talk to you people on certain topics, whatever, whichever it comes to my mind. Or some people will come and ask me, can you do this on the next week or something? So I'll make that on. And somebody's pinged me, would you be able to brief about Cisco SD-WAN in the next session? See, I have made one SD-WAN production. What's his name?
Okay.
Tejas, sir? Tejas is Tejas or who? Somebody has put that in.
Yeah, Tejas it is. Yeah, Tejas it is.
Yeah, Tejas. So I made one SD-WAN introduction session, I guess 3 weeks back. There is a channel, it's in my YouTube channel is seeing that in my screen, youtube.com/c/Ramnath K. So if you go there, you can just check that SD-WAN introduction is there. You can watch that. There I introduced every other SD-WAN solution available currently in the market. Not only Cisco, I talked about every other SD-WAN is in the market. You can just go through that.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello, Ramnath sir.
Yes.
My name is Vishal. Apart from this, do you have any labs for this so we can prepare and we can review or we can work on that, like.
Yeah, definitely. See, as if I told you earlier, Cisco switches cannot be emulated in our own laboratory environment or something. Now it is possible. We are doing that. That is a Cisco VARL1 labs are there. So those images are currently available in the internet. We can easily download those things. L2.
Yeah, apart from these presentations, like what you have shown just now, so parallelly, if you are okay with that, then can you give us a brief introduction, like how we can implement the switching technologies in the switches in your virtual lab, so it will be easy for us to, like, we can get things very easily if we saw a practical knowledge.
Yeah, right. So let me try to show by, let me open up the things once again. Let me, I just need to start my GNS3. It may take up some time, please wait. Actually, I wanted to show that some of the things on the packet tracer. In packet tracer also, we can try integrating the switching environment. It is very much possible. But the screens may not be so user friendly. That is available only for the, available in the sense for the knowledge feature.